Hi and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptids Roost. Let's just take a moment's silence for all the haters, Karens and the trolls. That's enough. Be sure to check out the blooper reel at the end of the video, which is then followed by the end screen where you will find more videos listed. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Salvation Part 2, Smiling Faces. This awesome series is written by getyaisha. They walked the streets as Maggie explained how things worked. All species other than humans had come to an agreement. They were allowed to have lives in the city as long as they followed the rules laid down by the Nosferatu. They controlled everything, and Sunny had stepped on some very important toes by uncovering a reptilian food smuggling ring. The children she'd reported to the police were intended for blood farming, and without that supply certain parties were forced to do things the hard way. In the city, ghouls were the lowest on the totem pole. They were widely considered as slaves or pests to be dealt with as whoever found them saw fit. Thanks to a bloody war that raged through the 80s, ghouls were finally given their own land outside of the city. They were to be the gatekeepers, and as such they were allowed passage through the city as long as they didn't hunt there. The Lycos, on the other hand, fought for years to earn their status in the city. They had enemies all around them, and thanks to the truce, were untouchable. But after seeing Edward hunting Sunny inside the city limits, Maggie knew there would be a problem in the near future. Then there were the Fae, the horrible little things that stabbed her and stole her shoes. They were one of the few sects allowed to hunt within the city because they killed and ate child molesters, but even they had their limits. In the beginning they held power, but being small came with disadvantages. They had been basically wiped out. The remaining survivors were granted asylum with the agreement their numbers were to be kept in check. Maggie went on explaining everything from the Slender Men to the Nightcrawlers, and by the time she was done, Sunny didn't want to hear any more. She wouldn't agree to being tagged or registered. When she refused, it enraged Maggie. She called in Mr. X and the other henchmen to take her captive, but she managed to escape after injuring one of them. The fight didn't come without consequences. The one she injured had done serious damage that left Sunny clutching a huge gash in her stomach. She trekked through murky sewer water, doing her best to keep her guts from spilling out. Her wounds weren't healing as quickly as they should, and she was close to blacking out. Fighting through it, she pushed on, eventually exiting the sewers through a manhole a few miles away. Hobbling and bleeding, Sunny looked around till she found a storefront that looked abandoned. The old security panels were still holding up, even though they were rusted and covered in graffiti. There was no way in from the street. She had to go a little further down the sidewalk and climb a wrought iron gate before having to climb on top of a budget rental van to get access to the building. When she was safely inside, she spent the next 3 hours in excruciating pain. When her wound finally healed and she was able to stand, her stomach began to growl. Human food wouldn't do. The minute she was back on the street, she started looking for dinner. As the sun set on another day, she spotted her mark. He was young looking and kind of thin, but Sunny didn't care. She was starving. She smiled to herself. He was in the wrong place at the right time. Drifting back into the darkness of the overpass, she hid behind a concrete column. Her heart pounded with anticipation as she listened to his footsteps getting closer. She couldn't maintain her composure. Her eyes rolled over, shifting the world around her into black and white as her jaw unhinged and her skin turned grey. She nearly squealed with delight when her hands became claws tipped by jagged bone. He was close now. She could smell him. She could hear the little tune he was humming under his breath, and as he took his last step, she grabbed him. Snatching him into the shadows, Sunny sank her teeth into his neck and ripped out his throat before he knew what hit him. When they landed on the ground, she bit down again, this time taking the lower half of his face. The jawbone and tongue had always been her favourites. There was something about the crunching mixed with the meatiness of it that made it taste better somehow. Normally she didn't like the brain. It was spongy and almost always had a bitter taste. But today she was making an exception. She bit into his skull, crunching through bone. Pulling away another mouthful, chewing while looking around, she found a place to finish her meal. Draping the headless corpse over her shoulder, she hurried behind a nearby parking garage and finished eating. After dropping what was left of her meal in a dumpster, Sunny shifted back into human form. Now drenched in blood and bits of flesh, she let out a sigh of contentment and closed the lid. As she did, a car raced up, shining its lights on her as it came to a screeching halt. The smell of rotted meat filled the air. These weren't humans. A voice boomed out as the doors swung open.
"Well, shit! Would you look at what we have here? That Teddy is a real-life ghoul."
Another voice chimed in, and they chatted back and forth. Sunny wasn't waiting around. She turned, started walking away, and after a few seconds one of them ran to chase her up. The instant she laid eyes on him, she knew what he was. A zombie. According to Maggie, zombies were nomads. They don't stay in any one place, and there are usually only one or two of them. They can't hide what they are. They only have one goal, and that's food. Their bodies wither away till there's nothing but bone. Then they are gone, and these two weren't far from bone.
"Slow down! Damn! We're just looking out for you. You can't go around making messes like that. You'll get the meat bags all stirred up, and the next thing you know, they'll put the city on lockdown. Not to mention, you can't walk around looking like a horror movie. This ain't Hollywood. The cops will shoot you. Now come on before someone else sees us." When they got back to the car, the other one was pulling Sunny's leftovers out of the trash. "I'm Oscar." Fat one, gnawing on an ankle bone, is Teddy. Tossing the meat in the backseat, Teddy looked at the two of them. "Fuck you, Oscar. What are you doing right now? Why are we picking her up?"
Shaking his head, Oscar looked at Teddy, who was gnawing on a fistful of bloody meat. "First off, she's hotter than Satan's balls. Second, she's a ghoul. Maybe her clan could put us up till we get enough cash to skip town." Turning, flashing a decaying grin, he looked at Sunny. "So how about it? If we help you out, do you think your clan will do us a solid?" Shaking her head, she chuckled and rubbed her eyes. "I don't have a clan, but if you get me back to my spot, you can crash there." Oscar opened the door and laughed. "Ha ha! Even when I lose, I win. Get in." The ride back to 14th was longer than Sunny would have liked. Oscar and Teddy never stopped talking. They rambled on, and by the time they arrived, she couldn't wait to get out. Once they were safely inside, Sunny left them to find their own spots. Her camp was set up on the far end of the building, tucked away in the ceiling of an old office. With any luck, she wouldn't have to hear from them for the rest of the night. Once she was cleaned up, she lay there on a cardboard mat, staring into the darkness. Memories of an old ranch drifted through her mind. There was a short man with shaggy dark hair and a bushy black beard. He was talking with Jacob and Edward. It was just a flash, a fading memory that riled loose a feeling of dread. She tossed and turned, trying to dig up anything her mind was holding, but there was nothing. Frustrated, she finally got comfortable and drifted off. The sound of voices and a familiar scent woke her up a few hours later.
Did we come through or what? She's right in there. We've done everything you've asked. Do we have your marker?
Sliding back the ceiling panel, Sunny dropped down from her hiding spot, landing on her feet, just as a heavy voice responded.
Take your pass and get out of my city. You have till sunrise.
It was Titus. Stepping through the doorway, he looked around the empty old office, then locked eyes on Sunny.
I'm not here to kill you.
He paused and sniffed the air before snarling under his breath. I'll keep this short. I want you to kill Edward. If you do that for me, I'll make sure you're good in LA. There wasn't much of a choice. If she said no, the odds were Titus would kill her. If she said yes, Edward would probably do the same. She said no. The old man almost smiled and shook his head. Pulling a cigar from his pocket, he turned to walk away. As he passed through the door, he said one last thing.
Wrong choice.
Sunny stood there listening to him walk through the building, and once he was outside, she heard his voice yell out,
Fire it up!
Followed by the sound of glass shattering all around the building and the smell of smoke. It was only a matter of seconds before she could feel the heat and see the flickering of flames. If the fire didn't kill her, the smoke would. She had to find a way out. Scrambling, searching desperately for any sign of hope, she remembered a fire escape and almost laughed at the irony of it. Barreling through the warehouse, she crashed through the doors into the cool night air. She'd been singed and charred, but was alive. She ran till she felt safe. Once she was sure no one was following her, she slowed down to take a break. Looking around, she noticed she was standing in front of a private school. Across the street was an old white 3-story building. The property was all fenced off and the place looked run down. Just above the rusted old awning was a faded red sign that read, Adelphia. Hanging above that, a fire escape leading up to the roof. Sunny watched a couple of cars cruise by, then when the street was clear, she ran across to the building. Quickly climbing the stairs, she used the handrail to climb up onto the awning and get to the ladder. From there, it was a quick trip up. As she passed the 3rd floor, she noticed a window unit AC that was running. She paused for a second. The signs on the front door said the place was condemned. She didn't have time to waste. Anybody could pass by and see her up there. She had to keep moving. Once she was on the roof, her eyes were instantly drawn up to an old green sign with a big white A on it. Something about that sign made her smile. Without noticing it, her body relaxed and that overwhelming urge to run vanished. The moment she opened the door to the stairwell, she smelt it. The scent from the flaming arrows. Slowly making her way to the 3rd floor, Sunny stopped when she heard the sound of someone charging down the hall. Before she could react, the door to the 3rd floor flew open. A voice called out,
Who are you? What do you want?
Sunny didn't say a word. She took a step back, up the stairs, and as she did, the guy stepped in, aiming a shotgun at her. He was shorter than she expected and slightly overweight. His dreadlocks swung wildly as he locked eyes on her, and when he did, he lowered the gun. Sniffing the air and narrowing his eyes at the woman in his stairwell, he huffed.
Let me see your arms.
She did as he asked, and when he saw no ink, he got a little concerned. She was a ghoul for sure, but she reeked of smoke and Lycos. One in particular he knew all too well. Titus.
I'm going to ask you one last time. What's your name and why are you here?
Taking a deep breath while keeping her hands up, she finally spoke up. I'm Sunny. I'm just looking for a place to rest. I didn't know anyone lived here. Nodding his head, he motioned for her to put her hands down and waved her in.
You must be mixed up in some really bad shit if you're running around the streets after dark. The name's Solomon. Everyone calls me Solo. I'm 3rd generation Moon Clan Ghoul. How long have you been in the city?
She explained as much of her situation as she could, and in the end, Solo agreed to let her stay for one night. He told her he didn't want anything to do with Titus. The old man was bad news, and his son Edward was worse. He wasn't surprised to hear Titus wanted his son dead. There'd been rumours about Eddie getting involved with outsiders. When Sonny tried to ask him about the ranch, he stopped the conversation.
Listen to me. You're a freeborn, which means you're pretty much fucked. I don't know anything about a ranch, but if you're not going to get out of the city, I suggest you find yourself a clan. I can't help you with that. I'm an exile. I could get downed just for talking to you. But if helping you out for a night hurts Titus, I'm willing to risk it. You can sleep on the sofa till tomorrow night. After that, you're on your own.
With that said, he left the room for a moment, then came back with a blanket and pillow. Tossing them on the sofa, he excused himself for the night and went back to bed. The sofa was soft and warm. Sonny was asleep in no time. Down the hall, Solo lay awake staring at the ceiling. It had been 4 years since he'd been allowed close to another ghoul. The feeling of being near his own kind reminded him of what he'd lost, and for a second he could see the face that took it all away. Titus. He'd been caught hunting in the city by the old wolf. There was no organised market for ghouls. If there was no food on the roads, they starved. Solomon's family was dying. He was left with no choice. He tried to reason with the old man, but he wouldn't hear it. Instead, Titus, along with his son, took him back to the Moon Clan as punishment for breaking the treaty. Titus and Edward were allowed to execute his family before he was exiled. The more he thought about it, he realised there was an opportunity here. He knew for a fact the old man's offer was a lie. There was no way he would allow the girl to kill Eddie and walk away scot-free. But if he could convince her to take the deal and help her, he might get a shot at the old man, one-on-one. Solomon couldn't help but smile to himself at the thought as he rolled over and closed his eyes. The next morning, Sunny woke up to the smell of fresh meat filling the room. Sitting up, rubbing her eyes, she glanced over to see Solo in the kitchen carving steaks off of a human thigh. Slapping a couple of choice cuts onto a plate, he walked in and offered it to her. She paused for a second, taking the plate. I thought you said ghouls aren't allowed to hunt in the city. Where'd you get this? Solo shook his head and laughed.
There's a local butcher that does a little dirty work around town. He sells his marks on the street for an extra profit. The guy's making a killing. He paused, waiting for Sunny to laugh, but she didn't. Taking a bite of her breakfast, she scanned the room quickly, then back to him. In that moment, an idea exploded in her brain. It seemed insane, but it made perfect sense. If she could tell Eddie his father was trying to kill him, it might buy her a way out of all this. When she told Solo her idea, he looked concerned.
He explained that ghouls and wolves don't associate. As far as he knew, the wolves kept all their dealings between packs, and all of them answered to Titus. There was another plan, he pointed out, but it was a risk. There were underground nightclubs that were neutral territory. The places were organised and ran by the Nosferatu. Those clubs were the only place all breeds intermingled. On any given night she could find some of every sect in the city there. If she found out which one Eddie was hanging around, she could walk right up to him. There was what he called a no-kill law at these clubs. Anyone breaking this rule is executed on the spot, no exceptions. After giving her all the locations he could think of, he wished her good luck, and just like he'd hoped, she asked him to help. After pretending to not want to get involved, he finally agreed to drive her from club to club till they found him. He planned on putting a bullet in Eddie's brain the first chance he had, but it would have to wait till he was outside to do it. It took 3 days to track Eddie to an old church on Judge Street in Little Tokyo. It had been converted years ago, but they kept the look. Once they were parked in the lot next door, Sonny went inside while Solomon stayed in the car, just in case they needed a quick escape. At least that's what he told her. The moment she was out of sight, he made his way over to a construction site across the street and went up to the roof to set up his shot. From there he had a clean line of sight at the fire escape, the front door and the rooftop party that was raging out of control. Now all he had to do was wait. As Sonny stepped through the doors, she was instantly overwhelmed by the mingling aromas that filled the club. She felt so out of place. Wandering through the surging crowd, a waitress passed by carrying a tray of drinks, and as she did, one of the patrons grabbed her rear. Trying not to drop her tray, she turned and confronted the guy, and as she did, Sonny stole a drink and vanished into the sea of people. Finding high ground on the stairs leading to the second floor, she scanned the crowd. There was no sign of him. The second floor was the same. That only left the rooftop. She spotted him at the bar as soon as she stepped out of the stairwell. Chugging down her drink, Sonny calmed herself and walked over to him. "We need to talk." She was sure she'd said it loud and clear, but he barely acknowledged her. Ordering another round, he turned to her with an irritated, angry expression. "You're a brave piece of shit, aren't you? What could we possibly have to talk about?" "Your father came to see me. I think you have a problem." Eddie gave her an arrogant, disbelieving smirk, then sipped his new drink and motioned towards a private booth in the corner. Once they were seated, Eddie nodded to a woman at the bar, and after a second she came over and sat next to him. He whispered something in her ear that made her smile, then she slipped under the table as he leaned back in his seat. "So, what's so important that you are willing to risk your life for it? Make it good. You're stepping on my buzz right now, and I don't appreciate it." Sonny could see he was clearly distracted, but when she told him what she had to say, she had his complete attention. "Your old man asked me to kill you. The way I see it, I just did you a favour. How about you get off my back and let me out of the city? We'll call it even." He didn't respond for a second. Letting out a low grunt, he smiled while looking her directly in her eyes. "Tell you what, if that's true, you got a deal." He stopped and held up a finger before she could reply. Letting out another low grunt, he continued, "Till then, I'll give you a 20-minute head start. Now get out of here." Sonny didn't say a word as she got up from the table. She'd taken 2 steps before some random guy's head exploded and all hell broke loose. No one heard the shot over the music, but the sight of someone dropping dead sent everyone scrambling. She darted for the stairs as more shots ripped through the crowd, knocking people off their feet. Moving as fast as she could, Sunny made her way down the stairs. She just hit the second floor landing when she slammed into someone, and they both tumbled down the last flight. When they hit bottom, she was aching all over, but conscious. Glancing to her left, she saw a familiar face. It was Kevin. There was a quick mutual moment of recognition that was instantly broken up by a herd of people spilling down the stairs. Getting to her feet, she slipped into the wave of panicking clubbers and sped out the front door to the walkway. People were running in every direction. In the chaos, she spotted Solomon sprinting towards the parking lot. There was no time to waste. Sirens were already echoing in the background. They were in the car and speeding away in no time. As soon as they were on the highway, Solomon started laughing.
You should have seen the look on your face when that guy's head popped. Holy shit, that was hilarious. Do you think he believes you now?
What? That was you back there? Why would you do that? He was letting me go. She was furious. For all she knew, he'd just ruined the whole deal. He told her not to worry. Eddie would have never let her survive. There was too much at stake. He was to be next, to alpha the clan when Titus dies. If there was anyone who could prove he had a hand in his father's death, he would be killed, or worse. Solomon drove her across town, then gave her $800 and told her they couldn't be seen together. Before he dropped her off, he handed her a card with a butcher's number on it and told her to stay off the streets. He wished her luck and drove away. Watching her disappear in the rear view, Solomon smiled to himself. It was just a matter of time before either Eddie or Titus came looking for her. And when they did, he would be waiting. And I hope you enjoy the blooper reel. They were allowed to live lives. The smell of rotted meat. There wasn't much of a chance. And once he was outside, she heard him yell.
You must be mixed up in someone.
The next morning, Sonny woke up to the fresh smell. He might buy her. When she told so, there was what he called a no-kill law. After giving her, he didn't respond for a second, letting out a low grunt. He smiled while looking at. Hey family, please be so kind as to punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. And by subscribing, you'll be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. A very big thank you to getyaisha for allowing me to narrate this awesome story. Make sure to check out getyaisha's Reddit page for more brilliant stories. Also be sure to check out the getyaisha playlist here for more of their stories that I may have already narrated. I would just like to say a very big thank you to all of the authors that I have worked with and all the ones that I will work with in the future. So thank you all, my brothers and sisters. And why not hashtag cryptidsroost in your comments. A quick thank you to all my Cryptids Roost community family too. We are now well on our journey to 1000 subscribers. So please spread the word and help us to grow and expand. If you would like to support the channel and help make us grow, You can buy me a coffee with your donations, big or small, to buymeacoffee.com. You don't even need to register on that site to donate. Alternatively, you can also support us, donate via paypal.me/cryptidsroost. You can also follow us at Ko-Fi and BitChute. You can also follow us via our Facebook group, Twitter and Instagram. All relevant links will be below. And don't forget to check out the end screen, see above. That will also list some more videos in my back catalogue. Take care everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and peaceful night. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness
is not.